Hello, my name is Jacqueline Pickens, and today I'll be talking to you about a juvenile patient who has a medical emergency. My patient has been taken to a local emergency room and has shown symptoms and signs of maybe an acute toxicity. If you or someone you know has been exposed or you think may have been exposed to a poison or something toxic, there is a hotline you can call, and it's the Poison Control Hotline. And it's open every day, 24 hours a day. There's also a place in Oklahoma City. It's the Oklahoma Poison and Drug Information. And they give out information and they help you if you have been exposed or someone you know has been exposed. My purpose in this is to follow the sets of data to determine if my patient has a possible pre-existing health condition or if they have impairment due to the toxicology exposure. Samples were collected from blood and urine of my patient, and diagnostic tests were used to determine the qualitative parameters for protein, glucose, salinity, alcohol, and heavy metals. TLC was used to determine the drug present in the system, and had a standard curve for colorimetric data was used to determine the blood concentration of the toxic derivatives. Now, the protein, starch, chloride, and glucose tests were tests that had qualitative results, which is something that can be observed, like color or texture, or like if a reaction occurs. These tests, the tests that were ran for these came back as a color, and for my patient, protein came back positive, starch came back negative, chloride did not have any reaction, and glucose came back a color, so it came back positive. My results came back that my patient did suffer from a toxic encounter, and what gave me this conclusion was that many of the tests that were ran came back positive. I do not think that my patient will have any last-longing effects because it wasn't a high exposure. Data is very important in our everyday lives, and especially with this case, even though it may not be a true story, it is still very important, because if, say, this was a true story and the child was exposed to something toxic or poisonous to them, they could have died and it could have ended their lives, and it would have been very tragic. So it helped save many people's lives. If it wasn't for the data that was collected during the test, we would not know what the child was suffering from. Scientists are very important, and even though you may not think of doctors and nurses and people of that sort as scientists, they are, because they have to look at us and they have to study us to figure out what's wrong with us. We have come very far in the numbers of tests that we can do and the equipment that they use to do it. It has been a very long road to be where we're at, and we have come far, and we have come even further in these last few years because of the advancement in technology and things of those natures. Errors are very easily made, and they were also easily made before we had the technology that we have today. If we are not careful and do not examine something carefully and look at it how it needs to be looked at, someone can lose their life and it can cost them greatly. Evaluating accuracy and precision is very important, and I am very confident in the data that was presented. It gave many benefits to helping figure out what was wrong with the child. In the future, the next experiment that needed to be done was to do a filtration of the child's blood to get out the toxic things that maybe have been in the bloodstream, and to flush the juvenile's or the child's body with fluids, and just to flush out everything that may not have needed to be in there and that caused it to be bad. There are a number of different materials that we can use to flush and filter out the blood, and medications that can be given to help it pass quicker. In conclusion, yes, my patient had a toxic encounter, but there are many tests that we did in our lab that were done in this presentation and in this situation that helped them figure out what was wrong. Like they used chromatography paper to filter out and figure out what was positive, like the starches and the proteins. Those have to be filtered out and they come out of color and they show up on the chromatography paper. So yes, my patient did suffer from a toxic encounter. Yes, the right steps and tests were taken and given to figure out what was wrong. Thank you.